Yes, it is I, your humble host, Bill Hatch III, coming to you live from the palatial studios of Bald Spots Productions here in the beautiful city of Irvine, California. Joining me from a more than acceptable safe social distance are my guests for this evening. First, from the West Coast, we have Dorothy Husen. Uh, how you doing, Dorothy?
Good. Glad to be here. Thanks.
And coming in from the East Coast are the Naums, Dr. Jeep and Vanessa. How you doing?
We're
Good.
great. Great.
Thanks for having us.
Oh, pleasure's all mine. Just a reminder, this is a mini roundtable, so we'll discuss whatever happens to come up, and hopefully we'll get some stuff that people will find useful and beneficial, and all of that good kind of stuff, and maybe a little bit of fun along the way. So so let's see. So Dr. Jeep and Vanessa. Okay, first I got to find out, how'd you get Dr. Jeep?
Well, I tell a couple of stories. The first story I tell is where I was conceived.
Okay.
It's short for George Phillips.
Oh,
GP.
okay.
And I know that's kind of boring, but the first story is a little bit more interesting. They were going to call me GP, and my aunt, shortly after I was born, didn't like the idea of me being called by initials, so she just put two E's in the middle, and it kind of stuck.
Okay. Well, sounds kind of like the story of how the Jeep got its name, which was for general purpose vehicle. So not a bad thing all in all.
No, not too bad. I've driven some Jeeps in my time, and I've really liked them.
And I just wanted to say he's a general all-purpose vehicle, jokingly.
Well, a general practitioner falls in there too.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
okay, so explain to the audience what it is you do. You two do.
Well, we're marriage coaches. We've been marriage coaches for 28 years, but have over the last 3 to 4 years we've specialized with healthcare professionals, and the big reason being that due to the ever evolving, stressful, increased responsibility, lack of control healthcare space that is our society, it's ravaged a lot of our colleagues' relationships, and so for that reason, we've specialized in that, and there's just been an overwhelming need for it.
Plus, you throw a pandemic in there and kind of shakes things up a bit.
Yeah, that has shaken quite a bit up. That's for sure. I know it's affected the way I do business. My day job is as a leadership development coach, or one of my day jobs anyway, because I can't do just one thing at a time. Is as a leadership development coach, and it's actually benefited me both by doing the podcasts, because it's made it more acceptable to people to do this whole kind of internet thing, and then also on the day job, because people are willing to pay attention to you over the internet, over the computer. It's been kind of great.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah. How about you, Dorothy? How's what exactly is it you do, and how has the pandemic affected you?
I am a um, using techniques Um, I'm also an author, so I wrote a book about healing journey, and I'm working on my second right now. And the pandemic, it was meeting with clients face to face, and I switched to Zoom, so I moved my clients to Zoom now, and it hasn't really affected my life.
Wow, I lost your audio quite a bit there.
Oh,
Sorry,
can
you
you hear
broke
me?
up a little bit. Yeah, I can hear you now.
You want me to repeat
Yes,
what I
please,
said?
if you may, if you can.
Okay, so I am a therapist,
Right.
and I specialize in helping adults heal child trauma
Okay, trauma.
and use mind body technique. Trauma,
Okay.
yes, trauma. And I use mind body rather than the best way to understand mind body techniques is that it's not talk therapy. It's not cognitive behavioral therapy.
Okay.
It's considered somatic therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Familiar with that.
Cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that's what I do. And I've been through the whole healing process myself. As my therapist, which was long ago, I was licensed in 2015. Suddenly, I became a licensed therapist, and I started to train as uh, to help people with trauma because I had trauma that I needed healing. And so as I started to learn more and more about how trauma is healed, and I started to heal myself. And so that's how my therapy now is helping people through the same process that I went through.
Okay. That's really interesting. Um, definitely great that you can help people through through things that you've been through, and so they can benefit from your pain.
Yeah, and the great thing about mind body therapy is you don't have it's very difficult to talk about trauma. I couldn't even talk about it myself. So you can heal without talking about it.
Okay. Cool. And how might that work for someone then? I'm having trouble envisioning it.
Well, I just start teaching my clients first about breathing, how breathing connects you to your body, and how um, trauma disconnects you from your body.
Okay.
And so to reconnect you to your body, I teach people how to breathe and how to meditate, how to go inward.
Hmm.
So how to go into their inner world. Like we all have an inner world
Mhm.
where we go inward, and that's how we start. And so I just start with the real basics, teaching about how um the goal is to create a feeling of safety within your own body,
Okay.
because when you get scared and you're a kid,
Hmm.
you can't fight because you've heard of fight, flight, and freeze,
Right.
probably. Yeah, so but when you're little, you can't fight, you're too little, and you can't run away, you're too small. So what you do as a kid is you freeze or dissociate,
Hmm.
or you go out of your body. So that's um, so the repair process is to bring you back into your body where you can feel safe, where you can feel comfortable.
Okay. Yeah,
that make sense to you?
yeah, it does. It does.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, I myself went through a traumatic injury. Shoot, it's been since the 1990s, so we're talking 30 years ago now, and where I was in an industrial fire, and
Oh,
yeah, it was not pleasant. I don't recommend it. And not having mind body therapy available for me, I had to learn how to talk it out, and that was very difficult to do. So I could definitely see how that would make life easier. Um, Dr. Jeep and Vanessa, how about you guys? How do you approach your clients' needs?
well, you know what? It's so interesting because my practice with sex coaching, because that's 1/3 of what we do in our program, is somatic based. And so, we live in our heads so much. When we're talking and we're thinking and we're going through life, are we really paying attention to a feeling that we have, for example, in our arm, or feeling that we have in our chest, or if we become afraid of something, or a foreboding, you're probably not going, unless you practice this, know where in your body you're feeling that foreboding unless you become mindful to it. And so, for example, uh, let's just say I have anxiety, and so somatically in my body, where do I feel anxiety? And that would be in my chest. So through breathing exercises and the mindfulness of just being aware, we can relax that point in our body. And how it's successfully used in our sex and marriage coaching practice is to relax into preparing for sex. Of course, is a bodily thing, right? You're in your head, but you need to be in your body as well. And so often, especially women, we have a hard time, getting out of our head and getting into our body. So it's through relaxation and touching that we get into our body, and to be mindful, so that there's a greater capacity for sensation and for pleasure because of it.
And as a physician, the concept makes a lot of sense. And I wasn't trained that way. I was trained more to talk, and which is I did when I was in practice, did an awful lot of therapy in the practice. I had some good training when I was in residency, so I was very comfortable with it. But Vanessa got trained in doing this, and it just has added a whole new dimension to what we do.
Exactly. And like for me, it was life changing for me because I am postmenopausal. And because of that reason, I don't have a whole lot of hormones running through my body anymore. So therefore, I just don't get the feeling of desire, right? I have to think about it and for example, rekindle it. And so what are the ways that somatically we can focus on desire so that desire builds as we go through the aging process?
And you just can't, to kind of dovetail on what Dorothy said and what Vanessa said, especially when you're doing intimate therapy, sex, you can tell somebody something, but until they actually feel it,
yes,
for themselves, they're really not gonna understand what you're talking about. And so that's what makes a difference. Our program is in 3 phases, and the first phase is about clarity in your relationship, and the second has to do with challenges, and the third has to do with connection. And so there's somatic sessions that are done in each phase, and
Teaching them how to connect with their body.
Exactly, because it just, like I said, they understand what you're saying a lot more forcefully, and they feel it rather than just hearing it. Does that make sense?
I think so. When Vanessa was talking, what she said made me think of good old Dr. Ruth Westheimer, and saying that that the mind is the body's biggest sex organ, and that makes a lot of sense. Being able to feel and understand in the mind and the mind-body connection seems to me like it would be the solution to a lot of life's issues. If I remember right, the ancient Greeks believed that one's mind could not be complete until one's body was fit, and vice versa. That fitness required a mind-body connection, and that was why they both promoted exercise and knowledge.
Smart people, the Greeks.
Yeah, for the most part. Good food.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
Let's see. Let's get. Let's do books and get those out of the way real quick. Have you two written a book yet?
Yes. Wrote a book. It's called "What's Forever for: A Physician's Guide to Everlasting Love and Success in Marriage." It was released last year. And basically part of our program is based on the book, as well as having lived in a healthcare professional marriage for what will be 30 years in November.
Congratulations.
So, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And lots of ups and downs, but in the healthcare profession, like I talked about earlier, there are different types of stressors that are dealt with, and certainly not to downplay the stressors in any other marriage by any means, but because there's those certain things that happen on a daily basis, we identify with that and develop a pretty significant connection by
understanding
and using ourselves as examples
right.
in teaching the concepts that we teach. Sure. And they get that, especially when they hear that what they're going through, and we did exactly the same thing, and how we weathered those storms,
right.
And still do.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard tons of stories of failed physician marriages, and definitely sounds like something that's needed in the field.
Well, them nurses, PAs, NPs, physical therapy, is there? You name it, they're all under attack, and they all deal with the similar stresses every day, from varying hours to varying responsibilities to increased regulation, on and on and on. I could go, and they all deal with that, and unfortunately, too often bring it home, and don't know how to.
Yeah, I had the physical therapist's wife, and her long hours and the money issues, and it was unbelievable. The stresses, and and I don't want to go into what broke apart my marriage too deeply, but suffice it to say that there were plenty of issues to go around, and a lot of it had to do with our professions. But yeah, where can people find your book?
You could go on our website, which is www.bestfriendsagain.com, and you can get it from there. It's available on Amazon that I know of, and by Barnes and Noble, and
Definitely on Amazon.
Right.
definitely on Amazon. Yeah, and
Mhm.
we're very proud of the book, and it won an award this past
Cool.
year, and which was pretty gratifying, considering it was the first one out, and hopefully more to come as
You
well.
had 30 years to write it, so
Pretty much.
okay. How about you, Dorothy?
Yeah.
You said there were 2 books.
Well, one that I
Okay.
published, the first one called Breaking the Chains of Transgenerational Trauma. And it's on Amazon and or Barnes and Noble, wherever books are sold. And it's in audio as well. And the book I'm writing now is called Reparenting Yourself. So the first book is my story. It's kind of like a memoir. And the book that I'm writing now is my technique, that I created to help people heal from childhood trauma. So, and that one I'm working on right now.
Fascinating.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
I can't wait to go on Amazon and get it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Breaking the chains of transgenerational trauma.
Trauma.
Okay. I keep wanting to say pain for some reason. I can't get that. I can't get over that word trauma. But okay. What inspired you to write your book, Dorothy? I mean, to finally get your story out.
Yeah, I was in a coaching program to learn how to market my business, because I tried working with insurance and I couldn't, it just wasn't for me to work with the insurance model. So I was in this coaching program and working with different professionals and learning how to speak, how to tell my message, and market myself basically. And one of the ladies that I became friends with, she was a book coach. I mean, a ghostwriter
okay.
at the time, and she's now since become a book coach. But I told her my story, and I also joined Toastmasters because I had a really difficult time speaking. I still do. I stutter a little bit and I'm a little slow at speaking, but that's all from my trauma from childhood. But so I joined Toastmasters and I was practicing how to speak, how to do speeches. And I created this one speech about what had happened to me, and I named it From Surviving to Thriving. And I practiced it with my friend. And she was like, you have to write a book and I'll help you. And so um I figured, if she was willing to help me and she was a ghostwriter, she knew what she was talking about. So yeah, it took us about 3 years though to finally get it into the form that, for me, it was just therapeutic at first. Like the first 2 years probably, it was just just like writing my story, writing my story, writing my story. And then towards the end of the second year, um my friend, she said, it's good, you can publish it if you want, but do you want people to read it? And then I was like, well, yeah, I do. She said, well, then you have to write it for them. You have to, which for me meant a lot, cutting out most of it. So once I understood that, oh, okay, it's not for me. You know, all the details of my life would bore everybody to death. So I had to write it for other people. And so that's when I got really I did focused, I guess, and organized into how to write it, and then it turned out to be only like 150 pages. And what people tell me is it's a good, it's a page turner, you know, so it's not boring.
That's always a good thing to hear.
It doesn't. Yeah. It doesn't sound boring at all, and you know, it took you 3 years, but as you said, I'm sure it was healing to you, and you got it done, and that's a major achievement.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sorry, fiddling around with technical stuff. The signals are of different strengths, and so I'm trying to adjust the screen size so people can see everybody. But I don't think I'm going to make that. I think Dorothy is going to have a tiny picture, like me. I have a tiny picture. So, Dorothy, did you go traditional route or did you self-publish?
I self-published, and I I published through a company called Authority
Authority
Publishing, which they do hybrid
Okay.
publishing. So so they published it, but I paid them. They
Right.
didn't pay me.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. I've had a ton of successful self-published authors on the show, and it's really become a great way of doing it, of getting published because it gives you control over the product, more control over the product, and you know which is very important to a lot of people, especially when it comes to publishing your own story. I mean, that's got to be about as personal a project as you can get.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was very,
It's
very pleased with the process.
you know, we did the same thing as Vanessa was saying, and we used a publisher out of Baltimore, and they were hybrid. And like you said, we paid them; they didn't pay us. And you know, we were quoted a price, and it ended up being when the everything was said and done for it was a lot more than what was initially quoted, and um, we ended up having to do a lot of the marketing for the book, and I mean there was some help, but not a lot, and so it's very much a learning process. Not we don't regret it having done it because we learned a lot about it, but
Right.
it's not for the faint of heart sometimes.
No, no, that's for sure. That's for sure. And thankfully, anymore, there are a lot of great tools out there that authors can use to get their product finished and out there. Um, yeah, editors and publishers and marketers and all of the same, all of the in between.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So wow. So how about you two, Dr. Jeep and Vanessa? What inspired you to finally write the book after so much time?
Well, it's kind of a won't go into a long story, but For me, there was just a couple of things that I knew when I was younger that I wanted to do, and one was to be a physician. But the other one was that, I certainly envisioned myself getting married. I was actually born into a healthcare professional marriage. My dad was a physician, excellent doctor, good father, but not a really good husband in a lot of ways. And so I saw that, I saw the dysfunction there, and it was something that I came to understand the older that I got was dysfunction that didn't need to happen. And so I was a pretty set when I got old enough and I got through training that I was going to do something about it. And fast forward, Vanessa and I got together, and she was of a similar mind, and we got married. And within a couple of years after we got married, we got trained to do marriage coaching, and we started into that. And then I was in practice for a number of years, and really writing a book was, I really never thought, I've never had a problem writing, but putting it in a book, we had a similar experience with a coach, and we were doing different things. We'd been coaching on retreats for a number of years, but really didn't think about doing this full time. And we enjoyed working together when I was in practice, and that kind of stopped halfway through because of our kids and Vanessa wanting to be home with our kids, which was totally understandable. And so um, I stopped, got out of practice, and we wanted to still work together. And my coach said, well, why don't you guys just do your marriage coaching, you know, uh, scale it, do it in a different way. And I said, well, that's a good idea. Yeah, I'd like to do that. And he said, oh, by the way, why don't you write a book? I'm like, oh, okay, just like that, write a book. And he said, yeah, just do that. So, I mean, initially I thought he was crazy. Um, and so, but sat down and, uh, got some thoughts together. And I don't know if it was kind of like that with you, Dorothy, but we put down a table of contents of subjects and just started writing from there. And it was just a process. When you write, you think you can just turn it on and turn it off. Like, oh, well, no, it doesn't work that way. You find a time, usually during the day, that are your most creative, and you just, I can remember one time uh, getting my car fixed, and I thought, I got some time here. I'm just going to sit down here and write. Well, no, it didn't happen that way. And so we figured out what the best time was. And for me, it was in the middle of the day, and I could sit down for 2 or 3 hours and write. Problem was, I can't type. I'm pretty bad at it, as a matter of fact. And so what I would do is I would write it. I'm from old school. I would write it on paper, and then I'd say, honey, I said, could you type this up for me? She's better at me at it, a lot better, as a matter of fact. But she got tired of that, and so I ended up dictating it into my phone, and then I would read it to her, and so it was a painstaking process, but it was a good collaboration, a little frustrating to her sometimes, but it worked out. And it was writing the book took about 3 months, but with everything, with editing back and forth, and copies back and forth, and the publishers trying to understand what you're trying to say, and sending you questions, and all of that. It was about
a year.
yeah, I'd say it was about a year altogether before it finally got launched in February of last year. But yeah, we both had different experiences, and growing up in
Mhm.
dysfunctional marriages, and so we wanted to make that a part of, part of the book.
Okay. Now, here's a question that's popped into my head. What would you all, and this is for anybody, say are the differences between therapy and coaching, so that people can understand what they're getting into?
So that's a really, really good question. And how I explain the difference and how I explain what we do is think of us as educators predominantly. And we're going to work with you from now moving forward instead of going back in past history and trying to fix anything in the past that it is for
You
a
deal,
therapist to work with,
and
essentially.
certainly, Dorothy, you can tell us whether you agree,
Mhm.
but you deal with the past to an extent, but
Right.
mostly we deal with the future, goal orientation
Mhm.
and facilitation.
Yeah.
And plus, there are in therapy, at least the way I understand it, there's different barriers, especially personally, that can't be crossed. And with coaching, we could use ourselves as examples, and it's difficult, I think, for in the profession of licensed therapist to be able to do that. Am I right or not?
Yeah, there's boundaries that I have to
Right.
keep as a licensed therapist. And um yeah, I do work on the past. We go
Yeah.
back to the past to heal the past at the root. Um, in my therapy, we go back and try and reparent the attachment, that the relationship between a child and mom. Usually it's mom, but any caregiver, the primary caregiver. So where that attachment first started, where that relationship first started, and go back and create a more secure relationship attachment. And so it is all about the past. And so because that's the foundational relationship that affects you the rest of your life, in all your intimate relationships and adult relationships. The blueprint was created in your brain the first 3 years of your life with your parent, your mom, usually.
And when there's issues like what Dorothy is talking about, we will work in conjunction with therapists like Dorothy.
Yes.
When there's that kind of healing that needs to be done in the past,
Mhm.
we either work in conjunction, or she would work with a client that we have. And then when that's been helped, then we kind of move it forward and facilitate the goal for the future in like that. So that's not dealing with trauma or abuse or addiction or mental health disease. That's her purview, and it's not ours. You kind of understand the
Yeah.
dichotomy there?
Oh yeah, I do, as a leadership development coach. And one who has been to plenty of therapy. Uh, I definitely get the difference. But wanted to hear what you all had to say about it, and get the conversation going.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a common question, and
Mhm.
people really have a difficult time sometimes understanding the difference
Yeah,
between the two.
and it's really not a choice between the two either. Um,
Right.
you need a kind of a almost a blank slate to start working on your future plans, and some of those things, psychological issues that are holding you back, can keep you from moving forward. So you definitely need both therapy and coaching. Um,
Well said.
the greats have both. Um, let's see what else. What else? Well, what are some tools people can use aside from your respective books? What are some tools people can use to help themselves? That you would recommend?
I in regards to
In
what
regards, well, for
specifically?
you guys, successful marriages, for Dorothy, resolving past trauma, your respective specializations.
Well, I would say for marriage, in the coaching, we as cliche and trite as this may be, communication is huge. And do you know how to communicate? Communication is a word, but do you really know what it means?
And usually folks are their form of communication is basically what they learned while they were growing up. So that's kind of on default, so to speak. And when they, marry a partner, they have their communication based on their origins in the past, and sometimes those aren't good. So we teach what's healthy, what's not healthy, and then how to navigate that for both of them.
And what's big is, couples oftentimes don't understand why they don't get each other. And a big part of that is understanding each other's personality. And you would be surprised how many people do not really understand what their personality types are. Because if they did and understand what how communication was modeled from past experience, or how from their ethnic background, when that kind of understanding happens, it's like an aha moment. Oh, okay, I get why you get really upset by this, or why you're overly emotional about this or that. And it's pretty eye-opening. But I mean, to lay it all at its foundation, especially in this fast-paced world, and in multiple partners or spouses working in the home, you have to make time for communication, even if you have to schedule it, which sometimes is necessary, especially when you both work, or if one partner is or spouse is at home taking care of the kids. I mean, that's obviously a job, and anybody who doesn't think that it is mistaken. There's nothing easy about raising kids. So you if you can't make the time, schedule it and stick to the schedule, because regular communication, as is one of the sayings that we have, is regularity. Regularity brings. Oh, now I can't remember the other part of it, but regularity brings prosperity.
Okay.
So regular communication is going to help you prosper in your relationship, and you head off potential problems, by communicating regularly.
Yeah, I know in my leadership coaching, a lot of times if I ask what could be improved, it's invariably going to be some variation on the theme of communication. But it's so difficult to improve because it's such a just kind of this amorphous thing. It's not like I want to improve my my sales numbers, where it's like, oh, well, I can measure how many sales you had yesterday and how many sales you had today, and now we can measure it, so we can look at how it's to improve it and break it down and find out where the breakdown, where the breakdown's happening, what part of the process isn't working, and all. But and so it takes a lot of work to improve communication, because you got to get it broken down into a point where you can actually measure it. Yes, I want more communication. But it's like, well, your communication wasn't good to begin with. Why would you want more of that?
Yeah.
Have you guys seen that video? It's not about the nail.
No.
No,
Oh,
can't
it's
say it have.
so funny. It's on YouTube, but it starts out with a husband and wife, and she's from behind, so you see the kind of the back of their heads, and then she's saying, you don't listen to me, or you don't, you're always trying to fix me, and I'm just, I'm have all this pain, and my head's, just burdened with this pressure all the time, and then she turns to him, and she's got this big old nail sticking out of her forehead, and
That's
um
hilarious.
and he goes, well, you do have a nail stuck in. And she's like, it's not about the nail. It's not about the nail. And he's like, okay. You just don't listen to me. And he's like, okay, I'll listen to you. And so she goes on and on about how her sweaters are all getting snagged, and she just feels this pressure all the time. And then he says, that sounds really hard. And she goes, yes, it is. And then they go to kiss, and he bumps into her nail and her forehead. But it's so cute and it's funny, and it that's how hard it is for us as couples. We want to fix, we want to fix the problem. We don't want to listen to the pain of
Yeah.
the emotional pain of what's our
Mhm.
partner's trying to express. We
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
fix it. We want to pull the nail out of the forehead. And I tell people, it's you if you pull it out for your partner, they'll just put it back in. They have to learn how to pull it out themselves, and they can't really do it. Or how your partner can help you is just by listening. Listening.
Yes. Yeah. And
Agreed.
it's even harder when you're married to a physician who, especially, for example, I have a chronic illness, so he's always wanting to fix that. And I would say, I don't need you to fix it. I just need you to listen to me. And it's more about offloading it, because as we're talking, we're processing. And it's more about just having a sounding board to like you said, Dorothy. Yeah, I get that.
And
That's so tough.
that's part of the problem, because as a
Yeah.
healthcare professional, physician,
Mhm.
that's what you're trained to do. Your thought process that is instilled in you through
Yeah.
training
Yeah.
is to be a fixer. And
Right.
being a fixer, as Vanessa is saying, is not all the time what's needed, and most of the time it's not needed. You just
Right.
have to sit. And
Mhm.
another term that's used a lot is active listening, and
Mhm.
that's what needs to happen. But in too many cases, there's just this wall, or this inability to understand the necessity of that.
I had to learn that too, because even as a therapist, there are people, a lot of times clients want me to fix them, want me
Mhm.
to tell them what to do, and tell them, uh, give them resources and skills. Um, and what I do with the mind body therapy is, I teach them how to go inward and activate their own healing processes within them, so they can they can heal themselves and they're not so dependent on me, um, helping them or fixing them. I'm there for them, teaching them how to feel their own feelings and how to listen to their own voices, and um but I'm not the fixer for them.
Hmm.
Oh, you teach them how to fix themselves and work yourself right out of a job.
Yeah, that's the goal. That's the goal. And you know, my therapy doesn't take that long. It's talk therapy will last for years, which is fine, as like supportive therapy. But yeah, my program is only uh 28 sessions, and so by then I've taught them how to be their own therapist.
It's very admirable.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's awesome. Um, what Dorothy? What can people do to kind of get a jump start on mind body therapy?
Well, I would recommend that they learn how to meditate, learn about mindfulness,
Mhm.
learn about how to breathe, how using breathing techniques and what they call breath work. Um, I would recommend that. And then the other thing I would recommend is take a parenting course,
Okay.
learn how to um, parent securely. And that's what made a big difference for me is when I saw videos. I took a parenting course called Circle of
Mhm.
Security, and I saw videos of parents and their children interacting and what that looks like. So the reflection back and forth, how the emotional bond forms, and how to attune to your child and attune to yourself and attune to your child's needs. But when I saw it in the videos, everything started to make a lot more sense to me, um, in how to reparent, how to heal myself, how to heal my own inner child. Because
Mhm.
in reparenting myself, I'm the parent, I'm the adult self, I'm the parent, and my inner child is my child. So, um, taking a parenting class is could be, I think, really helpful for people to um, see how important that relationship is, and because you don't really remember, when you were a kid. And I think parenting courses, a lot of times people think they're like only for bad parents or something, but you
That's a
know,
good point. That's an excellent point.
yeah, yeah, and it's unfortunate because it really helps. I think it really helped me, and um, I I make all my clients take a parenting course.
Well, it occurs to me that a lot of things aren't about necessarily fixing problems as we see them, but improving on the ways that we do things. I mean, to go back to communication, we all communicate. Some of us do it very poorly, and some of us do it rather well. But there's nothing that says that you can't do it better. And so having a coach or a therapist or taking a class in that very thing could certainly help people at any level.
Definitely. And
Yeah,
then and getting in touch with your feelings, as we grow up, for example, you fall down and you hurt yourself and you start crying. What are we told? All stop crying, right? So we're really taught to just push those emotions down and not really identify with them. So to do some feeling work and just like Dorothy said, meditate and be mindful of what you really are feeling is very important.
And it's important for your partner,
Right.
your spouse, to really understand that. And
Yep.
there's ways you can do that they can identify with.
Yes.
Regarding anger, regarding disappointment,
Mhm.
regarding regret, all those things. There's ways that, whether you use a scale of 1 to 10 or you compare it to something that you both understand, like a dark sky,
Right.
or a volcano getting ready to explode, things like that, and people
Yeah.
can kind of get an idea of
The depth
of
and
the
breadth
depth.
of the feeling.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Oh, let's see. The awkward silence.
Yeah, emotions, again, they're in your body.
Yeah.
They're in your body. So getting connected to your body is really important. It's really key, I think. And
Definitely. And I'll give you another example. And this is a way in how we use ourselves to talk to our clients. Um, Going through medical training, it's really like you go from being human to being almost trained to be a robot, because you have to suppress so much of your feeling to be able to just hang in the job. And so one of Jeep's problems was he never cried. So in 28 years, I could count on one hand how many times he cried. Awful things happening, right? But no, he had that so blocked. So part of um, us doing this work and teaching is for him really to feel those feelings and know that it's okay. And if you're not expressing them, they're felt on the inside, and they're going to tear at your body somehow. So it's better to just get them out, acknowledge them, even though it's hard, get it out and accept the feeling.
And that's where the physical aspect, when
Right.
you have all this inside, it's
Right.
going to come out some way.
Right.
It's going to be anger, or it's going to be, you're going to have an ulcer, you're going to have a migraine, you're going to have a heart attack, a stroke, all of these things.
Irritable bowel syndrome, high anxiety,
which all could be physical manifestations of inner things that are going on that, that you're not dealing with for whatever reason.
Or not aware of.
Right. That
you don't know why you feel the way you do, but then when you start to uncover it, it could be the fact that you're really not in touch with your feelings. And once you learn how to do it, like Dorothy said, through breathing and exercise is really good. It's a way of getting rid of those feelings, the negative ones especially.
yeah, because when you feel it, it moves through you.
Yeah.
The emotions have a purpose. They're to tell you something. They're to give you information. And so when we receive the message, like anger, there's an injustice done against me. So you use that information to maybe, speak out and say, don't do that, or you receive the information and then feel the feeling, and then it does its job, and then it moves through you, and it doesn't get stuck inside of you. So I found that a lot of women have more repressed anger, and it seems to that men a lot of times have repressed sadness, but that could be just the way our society raises boys
Yes.
and girls.
It
But we're
is.
all human beings, and we all, male and female, we just have emotions. We have all the same emotions.
Mhm.
So we all
And-
need
and-
to learn to feel them.
Right. And from a societal point of view, we don't celebrate emotions. You know, you're in leadership, Bill, right?
Mhm.
How often are you celebrating emotions with the people that you're coaching?
Um, Actually, it's been getting more since
Good.
I shifted my model from more traditional methods to the ethical leadership model. I found emotions coming much more into play,
Correct.
and definitely when it comes to things like workplace satisfaction
Yes.
and
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 yeah,
things
and
like
then you
that.
get in when people feel safe enough to express their emotions, then you get to see their authentic self. And when they are allowed to be who they really are, you will see the best of them. You will see the best of them.
We all want to be validated.
Right.
And
We
that's
all
the
want
key.
to be understood, and we all want to feel safe being who we are and accepted.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hmm.
Writing down notes. Hope you all don't mind that. But
No.
no, yeah, it's really great stuff. Let's see, where else can we go? Wow, I just noticed we've been doing this for more than an hour.
Yeah.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Time does fly when you're having fun, and definitely. Let's mention the websites and all that stuff. Let's see. For the Noums, it's bestfriendsagain.com.
Yes.
And can people go there to get coaching from you all, or do you have a different site for that? Or
No, everything is on that site. We're
Great.
also on LinkedIn. We have a pretty heavy LinkedIn presence. So definitely either LinkedIn or Best Friends Again, and anything they would need in order to get in touch with us, message us, is available there.
okay, and then the book, of course, is What's Forever For: A Physician's Guide for Everlasting Love and Success in Marriage.
Yep.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
then for Dorothy, did you have a website?
Yes, I do. It's my name. So
Okay.
it's Dorothy Husen, www.dorothyhusen.com. And everything's on my website. I get acquainted call if you just want to talk to me. My book, if you want to. And then I also have a reparenting yourself course, online course.
Oh, cool.
That's
Awesome.
available, and a bunch of YouTube videos. I made a bunch of videos about meditating and different things like that. So
Okay, that's awesome. And that's breaking the chains of transgenerational trauma.
yes,
That's a mouthful.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh well, considering that some of us are on the East Coast, and,
Yeah.
yeah, it's after 11 o'clock for you all on the live clock.
This is first for us putting in these hours, but so worth it.
Absolutely.
Well, I hope so. Definitely putting out the promotions for the show. Hopefully, it will meet someone who can get a little bit of help from it.
Absolutely.
And we do, we're primarily focused on healthcare professionals, but we certainly welcome anybody that needs some marriage coaching help.
Okay. Yeah, there are definitely stresses out there, stressful professions out there that have nothing to do with healthcare.
Yes.
True.
Yes.
True.
Well then, let's go ahead and close this up before we start to not have any more fun. Uh, do you find people have anything to say? The nice people out there. Any closing statements?
I see what you mean. Well, what I always say to people who are watching and looking, never feel like you're alone in what you're feeling. Don't be embarrassed. I know subjects can be embarrassing, but the help is there. Please seek it out. And do not, please do not, we beg you not to suffer in silence. And
Yeah.
that's what we try to instill in everybody that we coach and everybody that we're able to reach by interviews and podcasts.
Yeah, that's great. And I would say it's never too late. It's never too late to heal your childhood trauma. I didn't get into therapy until I was on my late 40s. And I didn't know that something that happened to me as a child could still affect me. And so I lived with PTSD for most of my life. So it's never too late. I have clients in 40s, 50s, I mean, teenagers up to 70s, in their 70s. So um, you can always heal. We can
Yeah.
always heal.
Yes.
Never too late to get started.
No.
That's for sure.
Absolutely.
Now
Perfectly said.
Go ahead.
Perfectly said.
Thank you. Thank you. Now there is one question I end every show with. I ask all of my guests, consider a hot dog in a bun. Is it a sandwich?
Um,
Because
that's
it's not square. I mean,
Is this a trick question here?
well, I would say
I'd say yes.
well, the hot dog bun is considered one piece of bread. I'm thinking in a sandwich is like two pieces of bread with something in the middle. This may be flawed logic, but I'm going to say I'm going to say no, it's not a sandwich.
Okay.
I go with the doctor's analysis there.
Okay. I've gotten good solid arguments on both sides of the debate, and I've broken bands up over it. So.
Oh.
Started fights. And it seems to be pretty evenly split between the yes people and the no people. So the debate shall continue.
Yes.
Because it's of absolute importance. So.
Yes, the fate of the world is resting on the answer to this question.
Yes. Well, I'd like to thank you all for being on the show. It's been informative, and I'm sure I'm sure I've gotten some things to develop on, and all. And I will definitely be checking out the websites and your Amazon entries and all of that good stuff. So
thank you so much, Bill.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Pleasure was
meeting
all
you.
mine.
Pleasure meeting you too, Dorothy.
Yes, kudos to what
Yeah.
you do and the help you're bringing to so many people that need it.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Indeed,
you.
to all of you.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, well that's it. I'm gonna go ahead and run the end credits, so you can all go your merry ways. And I've been trying to figure out a better way to close the show than telling everybody to go away now. But
Okay, we'll go.
Bye-bye.
bye. Good night.
Your evening.
Good
Good
night.
night.
I'd like to thank you all for tuning in. This has been a presentation of Bald Spots Productions. I'd like to thank my producer, my beloved mother, Eileen Hatch. I, of course, am your humble host, Bill Hatch III. I'd like to thank my special guests, Dorothy Husen and Dr. Jeep and Vanessa Naum. If you feel so led, support the show. Head over to Patreon. We're Bald Spots Pro over there. And, oh, that goes fast. Don't miss YWL Online on Thursday. New episode where you can find us on Facebook and wherever fine podcasts are served. Tune in next time for George Bentley and GS Jerry. Please, on whatever platform you're using, like, comment, share, follow, subscribe to stay informed and kick the algorithm into gear. So thank you all once again, and have yourselves a wonderful whenever. Bye.